Do y'all see that? That's Squidward's face on your client's nail. No application should look like this. Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of Skilled. I'm really excited to go over beginner mistakes because I feel like I was making a lot of these and I wish someone made a proper video to explain all those particular mistakes that I was making, because I promise you, I think if I watched this video and I knew what those mistakes were, I probably would not have struggled for like the first year. So therefore, I'm going to be making this video today and I'm going to address everything that has to do with common beginner application mistakes that you might be making that you didn't even know. So first off is let's go over all the things that you're going to need. So first off is you're going to need some monomer. This is the Makart Pro EMA liquid monomer in our low odor formula. I freaking love this formula for beginners, especially if you're working from home and you have like ethnic parents like mine who just cannot stand that kind of smell. Another really good one is brush cleaner. Brush cleaner is such an important liquid to have. The reason is because most of us don't realize this, but if you are cleaning out your acrylic brush with acetone, you're going to ruin the bristles. This should only be used for taking acrylic off of the client's hand and not for using with our Kolinsky brush. And then the brush cleaner should be the only type of liquid that you use to clean out the acrylic from your bristles. If you guys are using acetone to clean the Kolinsky brush, you're going to fray out the ends and they're going to get really like stiff, and that's going to clog more acrylic in there. So put this down unless you're doing a soak off. Next up, we do need some Kolinsky brushes. So I have my normal number 12, which is what I actually use on a day-to-day basis for application. And then I have the number 8 Kolinsky brush as well. Both of these are from Makart Pro. The number 8 is perfect for beginners. As you guys can see, the brush is a little bit smaller than the number 12. Let's compare the two different sizes here. The number 8 is great for beginners because it is a little smaller, so therefore it'll pick up a little less liquid. And if you guys watch my liquid to powder ratio, it'll tell you guys the more liquid you pick up, the more runny are your beads. So as a beginner, by working with a number 8 100% Kolinsky brush, you're going to make sure that you're picking up a little less monomer than, let's say, someone who uses a size number 12, and it'll be a little bit easier to work with. Okay, and then next up, we have some acrylic powders. So these acrylic powders are all from Makart Pro. I'm on a bit of a streak for pinks today, so we're going to be using these 3 different colors, which is Tawny Rose, it's Soft Pink, and Crystal Couture, and these are going to be the 3 different colors that we demonstrate are 3 common beginner mistakes. So for our first beginner nail tech mistake today, we're going to be using the color Crystal Couture. This is a beautiful shade. You guys are going to see it when I swatch this. I love opening up brand new powders. It makes it so fun. All right, let's pick up our first acrylic bead and let's just swatch this. Oh wow, look at that. That is a gorgeous shade. Wow, that's beautiful. It's like the most perfect mix of like translucent pink without it being transparent. Freaking love this color. We're going to be using this as our first powder to demonstrate our most common beginner nail tech mistake today, which is blending the acrylic from the middle and not the sides. And I will demonstrate what that looks like for you guys. So first off is when I first started, I made a lot of these mistakes. So if you're someone who's also making this mistake, like don't worry about it. That's the whole reason why I make this video. So we're going to flip our brush around, and when you see how I apply that acrylic, you're going to notice that I blend from the middle. Okay, so I see a lot of people doing this. We take our first acrylic bead, we lift and we take off, and everything just seems normal, right? Up until we get to that second bead here. What a beautiful shade, by the way. What a beautiful shade. Okay, we're going to go ahead and swipe. We're going to blend that down, keeping the edges as clean as we possibly can make it, and cut the acrylic from the tip, take out any excess acrylic that we don't need. And now when we get to our apex bead, you're going to see that mistake happen. So we take our bead, right, and we flip it around, let it polymerize a little bit on the brush, place that down, and lift. And this is where we all go, okay, let's blend. And we try to blend. Do y'all see that? That's Squidward's face on your client's nail. No application should look like this. And at this point now we're just rushing, okay? Because when we're like, oh my gosh, like it's getting to the side. So then we try to do this, and then we try to blend it out as best as we can. We all try to save our acrylic bead. And no matter what you do, now you're gonna have a really, really wide bead right here when it should be sleeker. So I'm gonna show you guys how to prevent this. So when you are applying your apex bead, we want to make sure that we're actually swiping from the two sides and back down. And this is the same exact method that I also use for my cuticle bead as well. Let's take that first bead and apply that to the nail, hold and lift off. Push the acrylic into the center like we normally would. And let's work on bringing that acrylic to the very tip of the nail. And cut off the excess acrylic, flip it out. So here is how I want you guys to blend your beads. I want you guys to work on blending from the left, then the right, keeping your brush parallel, and then blend back into the middle. And we're gonna see how that works out instead. So let's pick up our apex bead, flip it around, let it polymerize a little bit on the brush first before you place it down, and push that acrylic without pushing it all the way in. Just kind of hover, lift off, wipe your brush, tap it into the center, and let's blend. Blend from the side, and blend from the side again. Rehydrate, and then blend our way back into the middle. Look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous application there. Do we see how from the center, we're no longer working with a very, very bulky and wide bead? Everything is a little more humpier in the middle of the acrylic nail, and then it tapers off to the side. And that's exactly what we should be seeing in everyone's application after this video. Now we're going to repeat the same exact process in our cuticle bead as well. Let's pick up a smaller bead, flip it around, let it polymerize on the brush first, place it right below the cuticle area, and push it into the center, and push up. Notice how the angle of my client's fingers are pointed downwards. Same, we're gonna blend from the left, then you're gonna blend from the right, then you're gonna blend down in the middle. Okay, do we see that? No weird wide hump right there. Everything is just kind of tucked in perfectly. Okay, and now that you guys all know that we should always be blending from the side and then working your way back into the middle, we're going to move on to our second color here. This color here is called Tawny Rose, and it's more of like a pinky nude, if that kind of makes sense, but more so on the darker side. So let's go ahead and swatch Tawny Rose as well. Picking up that first bead, 45-degree angle, tap, and one bounce. Flip the acrylic bead around. Let that polymerize on your brush. Such a beautiful, beautiful color. Okay, and now this brings me to common beginner mistake number 2. The second beginner common mistake that I see is everyone trying to rush to start blending and then just like swiping. I know we had already addressed this, which is where I want you guys to keep your brush parallel to the client's nail, which means this is why you have to tilt the client fingers downwards. But still, I see a lot of people rushing at it and trying to swipe, which I will show you guys what that looks like. Let's pick up our first bead, flip it around, and then actually most of us don't even let it polymerize, and we go straight in. Place it down, and then we like push to try to get it off of our brush. And then do we see that? How my brush is now clogged with acrylic? And then we just keep going to try to like do this. It's okay if you do this, because trust me, I did this for the longest time too. And also, you'll notice that my brush is gonna start stiffen up, and there's just a lot of acrylic inside my brush. This is what happens when we rush, and then also we go back into the monomer with our dirty brush now. And so our monomer is also ruined, and then the monomer gets cloudy. And then we come back and we just keep going, and then now we're just pushing more acrylic in there. This is a mess. I can't even do this. Okay, this is hurting me, so I'm going to take that hand away, and my acrylic is starting to get in the inside of my bristles, as we can see. This is not a happy look. So let's take a empty Dappen dish, and let's pour some of this brush cleaner in here. Just a little bit. We don't need too much, and we can actually keep using this as well. This is how I freshen up and also clean out the acrylic inside my brush. This is all going to come off, and we're definitely not using acetone. Acetone is going to ruin your brush for you. And we're just gonna go back and forth in that brush cleaner. I love working with this brush cleaner. It basically like reconditions the brush and it almost loosens up the acrylic in the brush. And let's take it to a clean part of the paper towel. Take your brush and we're gonna wipe it back and forth in the direction of the acrylic brush. Please don't do this, because when you do this, you're gonna push more acrylic in there. Instead, we're just going to wipe it off. The magic with a 100% Kolinsky brush is that the bristles are super, super silky soft. With super, super silky soft acrylic brushes, what's amazing is the acrylic will literally just like slide right off, okay? Take it to the paper towel and we're just gonna wipe it gently back and forth. And now your acrylic brush should be completely clean. Look at that, no acrylic in there, beautiful. And the bristles are now rehydrated again, they're reconditioned, which is why I love working with brush cleaner. Beautiful. Let's take it back to our monomer to rehydrate it. Wipe it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. All right, perfect. And this is why I love brush cleaner. Let me set my brush cleaner aside and let's go back into our application. So what should we do instead of just going at it is we're gonna slow everything down. I want all of you guys to act like you're in a slow motion movie. Everything is just slower than you normally would work with it. Let's pick up our acrylic bead, okay? Our first acrylic bead, flip it around. This one here I'm working with a slightly bigger bead. And slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. Don't rush, let it polymerize. Take it to the nail, hold, 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 don't rush, and lift off. Look at that. Now that acrylic is super obedient, and we're gonna start off with that tapping motion. Don't rush. Don't swipe. You're going to use a tapping motion very gently, very slowly. No rushing, no brushing, no nothing. Whoops. Rehydrate your acrylic brush, and now that the acrylic has started to stiffen, now you can start swiping at it. Clean the sides off, doing this very, very gently, very, very slowly. We're in a slow motion movie. And then we can cut that acrylic. Take the acrylic out. Very, very clean cut there. And take off that excess that we don't need. Get that structure. Get that structure. But most importantly, let's look at my brush. Nothing. Look at that. Clean brush and beautiful structure on the nail. We see that magic now? Do we see the magic? When we work slowly with acrylic, it gives the acrylic an opportunity to react with the monomer, and that will start that polymerization process, which means that your acrylic is going to be super, super obedient and it's not going to run everywhere. It's not going to get inside your bristle. Now let's go back to do our last bead. I'm going to combine the cuticle and the apex bead, and we're going to do the same exact thing. We're not going to rush. Pick up a medium-sized bead, flip it around, let it polymerize on the brush first. This is super important. So many beginners will skip that step. Place it away from the cuticle and move yourself towards the cuticle while you're pointing the client's fingers downwards. Push it into the center and let's swipe from the side. Swipe, blend, and then blend your way back into the middle. Blend, 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 down the sides. And that's it. Now you have a beautiful acrylic application. You're also not stressed. Your brush is also super clean. Clean brush, look at that, very clean brush. Nothing on it, nothing in it. And we have a beautiful acrylic application, and we're not stressed. This is how your acrylic application should feel and look in the end. Let's take that out and we're gonna move on to common mistake number 3. Okay, so the last color that I'm going to use today is called soft pink. Soft pink is kind of more of a translucent pale pink. Let's swatch it, and it's more on like a white pink. Flipping that around and let's let it polymerize on our brush. What a gorgeous, gorgeous pink color. I'm obsessed already. Okay, and now we're gonna talk about our last beginner common mistake that we see, which is where our client's hands are like this. This is where the nail is parallel to your table. And I used to do this a lot because I was trying to like look at exactly what I was doing. So I would do this and I would start working like this. When you have your client's finger pointed parallel to your desk, naturally your brush is going to turn into this. When your brush is now perpendicular to the client's nail, this is called painting. We don't paint over here when we're working with acrylic. You want to make sure that you're sustaining that acrylic / clay kind of motion, which means that you're keeping your brush as parallel as you possibly can. And in order for us to do that is you have to lift up your client's hand and therefore tilt the client fingers downwards like this, and very naturally your brush will turn into more of a tapping, and more so it'll look like it's parallel to your client's nails. So we're going to use gravity to our best ability, and we want gravity to be our best friend because it could also turn into a frenemy. So let's take our brush and let's start that first bead here. Tap and one bounce in your acrylic powder, flip it around, let it polymerize on the brush. Okay, I'm not joking here, you gotta let it polymerize first. Then tilt the client fingers downwards and hold, and lift and down. This is a really quick way for me to make sure that my acrylic is getting as much surface area as possible on that first bead, especially when I'm working with a much longer nail. Do you see how my brush is pointed almost parallel to the client's nails? But do you also see how I'm flipping my client's nails up and down? As the acrylic starts to stiffen up, then you're not as worried about gravity as much over here. Push that acrylic into the nail and flick out any excess that we don't need. All right, there we go. All right, you'll see me constantly doing this. The reason why you'll keep seeing me do this is because I'm using gravity to almost pull on that acrylic for me, but in the right way. Let's move into our second bead. This is our apex bead. Take your brush, flip it around. Let's pick up that medium-sized bead here. Let it sit right where that apex needs to be. Hold and lift. Re-wet your brush. Push the acrylic. Push, push. And then blend it down from the side. Blend it down from the other side. And then work your way back into the middle. A lot of these little tips and tricks that I have for you guys, over time, you will find your own as well. Over time, you may be able to find better ways of doing it. I'm not saying that these are the best way to do it. This is just how I do it and what kind of helped me with my acrylic application as a beginner. Moving into that last cuticle bead, let's pick up a smaller bead, flip it around, let it sit on your brush a little, and then tilt. This is the most obvious bead where I really tilt my client's fingers. And yes, sometimes they do fight me. So I'm going to hold my client's fingers with as much sureness as I possibly can so that they won't fight me. Blend from the side, work your way back into the middle. When I do this, acrylic will fall backwards, and then I'm free to push that acrylic upwards into the cuticle as much as I need to. But if my client's nail is pointed like this, if I go in like this, the acrylic will tilt itself backwards and then it'll flood my cuticles. So instead, by using gravity as your best friend, when we flip it down like this and we push that acrylic into the cuticle, gravity will pull back that bead while you're pushing it up, giving you a super flushed cuticle without any flooding. Look at that. Such an easy thing to do once you use gravity in the right way, which means your client's fingers have to be pointed downwards and your brush needs to be parallel to the surface of the nail. Okay guys, I hope you guys all enjoyed this episode of Skilled. I hope these common beginner nail tech mistakes help you guys to identify where you might be going wrong, what's causing your brush to clog, what was causing your acrylic to not look as sleek as you wanted it to. Look out for our next episode of Skilled next week, and I'll see you all there.